So welcome to iShockey again. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how to do static bar graphs. First of all, let's look up the definition of static bar graphs. As in, it's about the thing is in one scenario. It's not something that you're going to have two dimensions of. Like this was the case in this year and that was the case in that year. It's going to stay at one place and it's going to talk about a scenario where the figures have come from, and it could be in the past, in the present, or the future. That doesn't mean, but the point would be at one point it would be static. And if that point, the data of it has been represented using graphs, bar graphs, it would be called a static bar graph thing. No surprises over there. So first of all, what kinds of figures you can see there? You can be presented with percentages, you can be presented with money, you can be presented with numbers. But why I wrote this thing, as in these things, I would say, is because I want you to differentiate between the upper three ones from the bottom one. It's something that is different from the previous figures, previous categories, because growth is about an increase already, and percentages, money, and numbers are there for that particular year. So sometimes students do this thing, as in suppose the graph is about the growth, as in that this figure has increased by this much. But what students write is that you have this figure in this year. I'll elaborate on this, further in the video. You'll get to see. First of all, let's look at a static bar graph, as in general. Um, I think you can't see that term. One sec. Let's erase it then. You already know it's static. So such is a case, as in you have band scores of three different persons, Sudhir, Sudhanshu, and Mahendra, and across the modules. So listening this, reading that, writing this, speaking that. So first of all, of course, you have to look for the best features, the important features, and the thing that can say the whole thing in a nutshell. And if you see, the one that strikes is the fact that the yellow bars are, at the lowest height among the three. And so you can see this thing that you can write the fact that Sudhanshu was, last in each of the modules. Was or is, whatever the case is in the question, because I have not put any scenario here. And if you see, among the three, if I talk about only Sudhir and Mahendra, you cannot see any particular uniformity here. It's sometimes equal. It's sometimes that Sudhir is below Mahendra, and otherwise vice versa. But even if you see, when one is ahead of the other, it's all about very minor differences, maybe maybe 0.5 or something. So you can see their competition is neck and neck. It's not neck to neck, remember. It's neck and neck. It's very close. So you can say that the two features you can write in the overview can be that Sudhanshu is or was the last in each of the categories, and Sudhir and Mahindra competed or compete neck and neck. Then in the first body paragraph, you can keep listening and reading, and in the second body paragraph, you can keep writing and speaking, and then you can make whatever uh, comparisons, or you can write the details you want to write over there. But as I said, as in I gave a hint of this thing, at the beginning, that there are sometimes growths given in place of figures, as in if this was the data last year, how it has increased in this year. The extents of increases are what you are presented with. So if you see, this chart says changes in band scores from the previous results. So you do not know what the result was there in the last year, and you do not know what the results are there in this year also. But you know the difference. As in, suppose the result in this year is X and the result in the previous year was maybe Y. Then you the only thing that you have right now is that X minus Y is equal to 2 for listening for Sudhir. So you just have growths. So if in such a case, you write Sudhir's score is band 2. This is wrong. You can only say that Sudhir's listening score has increased by 2. This is the only chart that you're getting. It's not that you will get it with this one. No, it's a standalone chart. And it talks about the increments. It talks about the kinds of growths these people have seen in their current result. And now again, if you see, there is something uniform about this chart, that Sudhir is, seeing increments or growths or increases, they are varying, as in sometimes 2, other times 0.5, the next time 1.5. Okay, this is a striking feature. And if you see, Sudhanshu has had an increase of 1.5 in each of the modules. So is the case with Mahendra, but with a figure of 1. So an overview can be of this sort. While Sudhir's scores have undergone varying increments across the modules, Sudhanshu's and Mahendra's have increased by particular extents, kinda. So let's do, a sample. Pause the video and have a look at the picture, and then we'll move. I hope you did so. So let me explain to you what the chart says. The bar chart below shows the top 10 countries for the production and consumption of electricity in 2014. You know the ranks, you know the countries, and you know the electricity production and consumption, and production and consumption units are billion kilowatt hours. So China this, US that, Russia, Japan, India, Canada, France, Brazil, Germany, Korea. So if I see, I can clearly point this out that in each of the countries except Germany, production is greater than consumption. That is one of the striking features that you can write in the overview. And another thing that sticks out is that China and the US are far ahead. If you compare them with the other countries, China and the US are far ahead. So these two features in the overview will be enough to give the examiner your capacity to analyze things. So yeah, I think up to that point only, these two are more than enough. And then of course, I think 5 categories in one paragraph and 5 in the other, and you're good to go. So this is a sample. My face might be irksome right now, so I'm gonna do this thing. Perfect. So the given bar graph represents how much electric power was generated and used by the best 10 nations in 2014. In general, in all nations but one, but here means except, production was greater than consumption. Moreover, China and the USA were far ahead of the other nations in either category. Why I have written it in the past? Because of the year. The Chinese produced 5398 billion kilowatt hours of electricity, and their consumption was also more than 5300 billion kilowatt hours. The US generated 4099 billion kilowatt hours and used 3866 billion kilowatt hours of it at far lower levels. Now I have mentioned that because it has been put forth in a generic form in the overview that the upper two ones are far ahead of the others. So I should be clarifying that in the details also. At far lower levels, the Russian yield and usage, yield means production, and usage stood at 1057 billion kilowatt hours and 1038 billion kilowatt hours respectively. Similarly, 936.2 billion kilowatt hours of electric energy was given rise to in Japan. The natives put this much of it to use. The Indian figures were 871 billion kilowatt hours production and 698.8 billion kilowatt hours, which is for usage, respectively. The Canadian production came out to be 618.9 billion kilowatt hours. Of it, approximately 500 billion kilowatt hours was used. Further, 561.2 billion units were produced in France with a consumption figure of 462.9 billion kilowatt hours. Subsequently, Brazil generated and used 530.7 billion kilowatt hours and 455.8 billion kilowatt hours respectively. In contrast, the German consumption, this much, surpassed the national yield, that much. The Republic of Korea had 485.1 billion kilowatt hours to use and used 449.5 billion kilowatt hours. If you see, yeah. So you can match the figures. I may have made an error. I have tried, you know, to take care of it, and there is, you know, the probability is very low that you will find an error in regard to the figures, but still I'm a human. So what you can do is that you can click a screenshot of this screen and a screenshot of this one, and then you can compare using two phones. But who wants to give that much effort? And this is the homework. Let me make it clearer. This is for my students, of course, the homework. And if you liked this video, give it a like and share it with someone who needs it. Thank you. Without hard work, this video will do no good. So this is no magic.